Hello and welcome. This will be part two of the editing basics series. I will be going over just some basic things that I do in Lightroom, things that I use. I will go over all of the tools. The first thing I'm going to do is open up a catalog that I have already. Okay. Now, there are a couple important things that you need to know about where you can find settings and things like that you're looking for in Lightroom Classic. If I am going to import or export images, I am always usually going to be in my library. Okay, so you see at the top there is a library, develop, map, book, slideshow, print, and web. I mostly use the library and develop. Okay. Library is where you're going to be able to see what's in the catalog, where it's at. I like to use a quick collection. If you select an image and click the letter B, it will add it to a quick selection for you, quick collection for you. I can click all photographs I've put into this catalog, previous import, which I've only done one import into this. In the first video, I did go over how I import images into Lightroom and how I start my editing process. So I'm not going to go over that. There are other types of collections that you can do, other types of smart collections that you can have. I'm not going to go over any of that. Just the basic things that you would need to know how to survive Lightroom Classic. So it's important to know where your photographs are, your quick collection here, how to import, how to export. At the bottom, you have your carousel of all your images. You also have your full gallery here, which I'm going to click on quick selection because this we're kind of work through today. And then once I have all of those things done, I'm not going to touch anything else. I'm going to go straight into up to the top and click develop. Okay, when I click develop, this is going to show me where all of the like little editing things are that I can do. I'm going to close these and we'll go through each one at a time. So just some basic knowledge of where things are. Over on the left side is the navigator panel. It has these little buttons here you can press to zoom in and out with if you would like to. So I can fit it to the screen, zoom in at 100. Zooming in at 100 is super beneficial because that's how you're going to know if your image is sharp enough to print. If it's sharp at 100% when you're on your screen, it will be able to print pretty well. Now this one's very close. It's a little soft. It has a little bit of noise and grain that I would edit out of this image, but it is what it is. It is there and it happens. So if I'm at 100, I could print this. This is sharp enough that my eye would be okay. 50, now this one you can change it. You can click on the little side arrow and look at different percentages. Now I'm never going to be editing at 1600%. That's insane. Okay, but I might look in at about 300 or even 200. Okay. And then you can see you can also click, you can move this around in the navigator square. I like to keep this open. It just kind of shows the little preview of what I have also down here at the bottom. Now you can adjust these previews however you like. You can make it really, really tiny so you have more working space. I like about I'm going to go medium. And you can adjust these as well. You can make it bigger or smaller. I prefer those to be smaller on the sides. So that is your navigator, okay? Now the next thing below your navigator is going to be your presets. Now I have like a slew of presets that I do not use. Some, excuse me for my yawn. Some of these are not bad. It's just not my editing style. Studio 2022 is always my base for studio. Sandy Mood is really pretty. If you were into those tones, it's really pretty. And some of these actions are Polar Express. No, I created that one myself. Polar Mood, Sandy Mood, Willy Mood, Zaza Mood. If it says Mood beside it, Lolo Mood, Millie. Those ones are all from Josie Banks's Sunny Melon photography. And then these other ones I have created myself. The BB signature preset is from Brittany Bruce Education. I did take some of her courses. They were fantastic. She's super sweet. And so that's what this preset is based off of, but this is nowhere near my editing style. I have this one is my outdoor preset that I use for everything, and obviously it does not do well for studio, so there's a reason why I don't use that one for studio, but you can see my studio one here it does. Now this image that we're looking at, I've already made basic edits to it, so you will see that everything looks different already. Over here on the right, you're gonna see that you have different. I'm not sure why that's not pulling. We're going to go with the crop tool. Handy dandy crop tool. Okay. Okay, there we go. And then this is the healing brush tool and the spot. Well, there's a clone and a healing brush tool. And then this is a content aware remove. Content aware removed. I'll select it and hit enter, and it removes something in the backdrop. This is a new feature. This has not always been in here. You can change like the size of your brush here, like how strong you want it to remove something right here as well. So like it's not going to. Okay, I'm gonna do that. Okay, go back and I will make it small. If you are on a Mac, if you use two fingers, you can zoom in and out with your brush in Lightroom. Or you can hit the bracket keys, the left and right bracket keys on your keyboard to make it bigger or smaller. I usually try to get it as close as I can to the actual shape size, mostly, of what it is I'm working on. Oh, whoops. Let's see if it fixed it. Maybe I did it backwards. I don't know. That's a new tool. I don't use it a whole lot. You can click it and hit delete and it will remove it. But I probably would just use my spot tool, spot healing. Click it. And it's going to select somewhere else. I'm not sure why this is not working. Oh, probably because my opacity is all the way down. Because I was playing with that. And there it goes. It goes away. So that is what's included in the little band-aid. Now you have the little eye one. This is like a red eye or a pet eye dropper tool that you would just select it and it's supposed to remove it. Obviously, you're really not going to use this that much. This one, circle, the marquee looking circle, is super cool. It has a lot of cool things happening here. It is recognizing a person's face, the person itself here. You can select the subject with this one, and then you can mask just the subject how you want to change the subject if you want to do that. I am not going to do that. If you have like a sky you want to replace or a sky you want to play with, it will select sky. Now this is in studio, so you're not really going to get the effect that you want there. You can click background and it will select the background. Now I will tell you, I changed the color of mine. It usually shows red. I did change mine, so it does show a different color when you don't have anything on. Let's see if I got it to change back. I don't know. I'd have to play with it because now I've got it all crazy. Oh, somehow I'm in my before and after. So click that again and then click the back. So you see I changed the color. Sorry, that was a very roundabout way to show you that you can change the color of that. But from here, I can make this brighter or darker behind the subjects, play with the highlights, shadows, whites. It even has color temperature now, which is some added things. Sometimes I will select a subject, just the subject themselves, and sharpen it like as much as I need to help fix if I have like just a little bit of off focus, if I want to adjust it from there. There are a couple other different things in this panel that's really fun. You have the radio gradient. Now, this would be like really good to use for, like, say you're doing those heirloom portraits. Um, that's what I would use it for. You can invert it so it does the opposite. So it does everything but what you press. Now, this can be really handy. I really like to use this when I want to add sun to an image, or I just want to add a highlight somewhere through trees or something like that. I will use it. Okay. I kind of started at the bottom. I don't use this one. I do use the radial gradient, so that was radial gradient. Linear gradient, I love using this one, and I will take it sometimes, and I will create some sunset colors by upping the temperature on it. Okay. And then the exposure. And now you have a two-toned dimension of the backdrop or what's behind the person. Now it does come all the way onto her. So I would ideally want to mask it off. You can hit add or subtract. And then it gives you all these ways to do that. I usually just use a brush and I would subtract it off of her face. Just like this. So I know that I'm going over a ton of stuff here, but I just want to make sure that you are getting the gist of a lot of these tools. The other tool is just the simple brush tool. So like say I just wanted just her face to be lighter, I would just pop her face just a little bit, or maybe I wanted some lighting on this leg because it doesn't. I can even adjust my shadows up here and make it brighter. I mean, obviously, you don't want to go too far. I actually like the shadow under there, so I'm going to leave it there. But I would pop it just a little bit, like so you could for sure see that foot. And, you can always mask it on or off here by brushing it on and off. Okay. Objects, you can select objects. Okay. And then do that way, so that's all that little brush does. Okay, I'm going to unselect that. And then now we're going to talk about each one of these. Now, these are some of the most important things. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to show you, this is the histogram. So this anything on this side are shadows, blacks, anything dark. And it will kind of show you through. And these are all of my brights. You can play with these when you're editing. Sometimes it lets you move them. I think it depends on when I'm working, but these are my settings for what I took it straight out of camera. It was ISO 200 35 millimeter camera lens at 3.2, and then I would had it at 1/160. Okay. So you can find all of that information there. If you're into histograms, if you look at them on the back of your camera, that can help you decide if something is too bright, something is too dark, and how to meet it more in the middle here. You want a nice, like, mountain curve here. Now, obviously, I do not have that. I'm not the perfect shooter, and that's okay because I can edit in a way that it looks like I am. So that's what I try to do. Um, Now we're going to move on to just what all of these are basic, and I'm going to try to go a little quicker to save this video on a little bit of time. Click it basic. This is where you're going to find your color. I like to take my dropper tool and find a good base. Now, obviously, that was a blue backdrop. It's not going to do well if you dropper on that. So I'm going to find some kind of neutral color in the image that I took. So maybe that white or the wall, and then it will adjust these for you. Now, these are never right for me. I always feel like they're too red and not warm enough. So, but I'm actually going to move them back to what I originally had because I prefer this. So I had it at 5900 and plus 6. Moving down, these are different tones. You can click auto. Auto is not really my favorite thing to do. Okay, it's probably not going to get the result that I want from the image. Exposure, this is just ups it up or down. You can make it darker, lighter. Contrast, I usually add a little bit of contrast in, and that just helps this little mama pop off of the back of the backdrop. I always have contrast when I do outdoors just to help my clients pop off of the backdrop. And this contrast just helps with your highlights and shadows. Gives you a little more highlight and a little more shadow where it needs. Now highlights, I typically have them lower, but you can see what happens with the highlights here. Shadows, I can play with shadows. I can bring them all the way up if I want, or I can lower. I like to lower when I'm outdoor a lot, just to give definition. White here, anything white in your image, you can make it brighter or darker. I'm so sorry for the yawning. It is 10:17 at night, so I'm doing this a little late past my bedtime. Right here, you're going to look at clarity, texture, dehaze, vibrant, saturation, those things. You can play with any of these sliders and kind of see what they do. I never really mess with these unless I am working on a background only. When I have selected up in here and clicked background, sometimes if I feel like my background is not blurred enough, I will come down and I will lower the clarity of the background and maybe the texture and pull it down. Now, obviously, if you go too far with it, it looks a little gimmicky, and anything to look you don't want anything to look like too unnatural. Like, obviously, some of the editing style is a little unnatural looking, but you don't want it to look too crazy. So I usually don't mess with those unless I have to. Dehaze helps if you have a sun flare in your camera. When you took a shot, that kind of helps alleviate some of that. Tone curve. Okay, this is what my tone curve looks like for this image. Now, because I use a preset, I don't like messing with my tone curve in Lightroom, so I really don't do much with this. So that's why I have a preset, because I like this preset and how the tone curve is set up in this. And so I won't mess with this. I'll leave it the way it is in here because it's exactly what I want. HSL color. Now you can switch between it looking like this and you go in between them all this way, or you can do this way. This is what I prefer. I like the little circles. Something about the little circles just make me happy. They're so cute. So I will click this, and you can play with your saturation, your luminance, and your hue on each of these. Doing something with oranges helps a lot with skin tones and yellows. And my greens are a different kind of green than most people's. I like more of a filmy vibe to my images, like more of a film, a preset edit, but with a nicer, bolder color, if you will. Still light, pretty light, not necessarily airy. So that's just my style. So I like my greens to be a different color. And I go through, and these are all my settings. I'm not going to go through exactly what my settings are. You can kind of go through and decide what you like, what you don't like. Maybe one of these days I will share my preset with everyone, but not today. Color grading, you can go through and do color grading, like these are the different colors for highlights, for your shadows, for your midtones. So you can go through each one this way, okay, and adjust. I am not going to do anything with this. The next thing, color grading. Nope, we just did that. Detail. Now, this is probably one of my favorite little sections of editing because it can magically help my image look better. So what I'm going to do is I grab this little tool here, and I will usually select the face when I do this so that I can see how sharp an image is and how unsharp it, or like, well, yeah, you get the picture, how sharp it is and how much it's not. I will usually take the sharpening tool and I will use this until I see that my image is sharp. Now, if it has like some grain, then I will also up my noise reduction to help smooth it back out, but you keep some of that definition. And you can play with this how you like. I'm trying to go quickly because my computer is going to die. All of a sudden, it says it wants to die. So that's detail. Lens corrections, I always keep lens corrections on. It helps to remove the little purple chromatic abrasion above tree lines when I'm doing outside. And then with this, you can literally see the image change. Here you can see that it changes the outside corners of the image, and what it does is just levels out from where your lens is round. When you take the image, it just flattens it back out and brings it basically back to a flattened position, if you will. You can play with vignetting. Vignette is not really my thing. Transform. You can use any of these skills to help transform your image. Move things around. Okay. Effects. Post crop vignetting and grain. If you're someone who likes a really pretty grain, stylistic, you would probably use that. Just stylistic photo. Now these are the calibration at the bottom. I'm not going to go into too much detail with each one of these, but it has a lot to do with the hues and colors of your image. You can select on versions, all of that, and go through. This is just all based off of my presets, so I don't like to mess with any of that. But other than that, that's pretty much Lightroom. Just a couple things. Just remember that you can go from library to develop. When I'm in library, that's when I'm probably going to be exporting, making a quick collection, any of those things. And then develop, I am going to be actually editing an individual image. Oh, I did want to go over one thing with you on how to do this. If you take an image and it looks the same as something else, you can batch edit this way, which is really fun to do if you have a bunch of images in a row that are like the same coloring, that kind of thing. I will take my keyboard shift and click select all of those images and then hit this button right here on the bottom that says sync, and I'll just do it for funsies. You can click all of the things you want to sync to all of the images. Even if you had a crop or you heel brush something, you can batch edit all of that, hit synchronize, and then it will make all of these the exact same as your first image. Okay. Now, if you have any questions, just post it in the comment below. And I hope to hear from you all, and I hope that this helped you learn something new about Lightroom Classic, and maybe this will give you the encouragement that you need to open up Lightroom Classic more and use it and use all the little wonderful tools that are in it. I didn't cover even some of the other little like neural filters that you can do in here. I'll probably just make one video just for that because those are super fun to work with. But anyways, thanks guys for watching. If you have any comments or questions, please comment below.